You want to look at two rationality assumptions about tastes. Where rational tastes are defined as tastes that fulfill two properties. Number one, they're complete, and number two, they're transitive. So focusing on completeness property. So first we'll look at what do we mean by complete taste. So tastes are said to be complete if individuals with those tastes are able to compare any two bundles. So the key word here is that individuals who have complete tastes are able to compare any two bundles. And by compare, we mean they're able to tell whether they prefer one bundle over the other or are they indifferent between them. So here the key word is compare, right? So completeness is in the sense that you're able to compare any two bundles. You're able to tell whether one is preferred or you're indifferent between them. So now how do we write this completeness property mathematically? Now for this we'll make use of three notations. So for this we're going to use three notations to show this comparison. To be able to compare two bundles, the first notation is going to be this notation. What this means is, now over here, note this is not greater than equal to, right? So this is not greater than equal to, right? It's not this. You make it with a little, it's a little curved over here. So it's this, right? This is the notation. So this is the notation. Now, what does this notation means? So this notation is saying in words that bundle A is at least as good as bundle B, right? So it means at least as good as, right? So we're basically using this to represent at least as good as. This is what we're representing with this. What this means is if you don't know anything more than this, that if the only thing that you know is that bundle A is at least as good as bundle B. So this implies that you might prefer A or B or you might be indifferent between them. You can't tell anything beyond this. You can only see that if you know that A is at least as good as B, you either prefer A or B or you're indifferent between them. So this is at least as good as, or you can think about it as preferred or indifferent to. So we say that you have a weak preference for bundle A. So this is the first notation, right? That we can use to show this comparison between any two bundles, at least as good as, right? The second notation is going to be, as we can see here, this is the second notation. Now, in words, what this means that bundle A is strictly better than bundle B, right? So this means strictly better than. So this is strictly better than. Again, this is not greater than. It's a little curved here. So it's like this, right? So it's not a greater than sign. It's a little curved, right? So this is the notation, right? So it's not greater than. It's represented with a little curved over here. So when we say that bundle A is strictly better than bundle B, this means that you have a strong preference for bundle A, which means that you will always pick bundle A given the choice. Over there, like we said, for this one, which is as at least as good as, that means that either A is preferred to B or you're indifferent between them. But here we're saying that you have a strong preference for A. Whenever given the choice, you will always pick bundle A. The third notation is this. So in words, this means the individual is indifferent between the two bundles, right? So this means indifferent bundles, which means that given the choice, you can pick either. You're indifferent between them, right? So we looked at three notations. So like we said, we have three notations to describe, to make this comparison between any two bundles. One we have is at least as good as. One we have is strictly better than. And the third is indifferent, right? So we have these three notations to compare any two bundles. And over here, it's important to note if bundle A is at least as good as bundle B and bundle B is at least as good as bundle A, what does this imply? This implies that you're indifferent between bundle A and B. Like we said, that if the only thing that you know is that bundle A is at least as good as bundle B, if this is the only thing that we know, right? If we only know this, so if the only thing that we know is this, then based on this, the only thing that we can say that when we, like we talked about without any further information, it might be that bundle A is preferred to bundle B or you're indifferent between the bundles. But if you further know, okay, so you can't be sure, right, which one of the two it is. It could be that you strictly prefer A over B, or it could be that you're indifferent between them. But if we further know that B is also at least as good as A, we have this information. we have this additional information, then we're sure that it means that A is indifferent to B. If it was the case that we found out that A is at least as good as B, but B is not at least as good as A, then in that case, this is what would be true. K is strictly preferred to B. So the idea is that if you just know that A is at least as good as B, so it could be that A is strictly preferred to B or A is indifferent to B. But if you know okay, A is uh, at least as good as B, plus you know B is at least as good as A, then that means that A is indifferent to B. If you know that A is at least as good as B, plus B is not at least as good as A, so then that means A is strictly preferred to B. So if you don't have any additional information, you only know this, then it could be that either A is strictly preferred to B or indifferent between them. But if in addition to knowing that A is at least as good as B, we know that B is at least as good as A, then this means that A is indifferent to B. If we know that A is at least as good as B and B is not at least as good as A, then it follows that A is strictly preferred to B. So moving on. So now this is how the text defines the definition of complete taste more formally. So this is from the text. So this is from text. It says that the person has complete taste over all bundles with n goods. So we're looking at bundles with n goods. In the earlier examples that we looked at, the bundles that you're looking at were bundles with two goods, but now we're generalizing it to bundles with n goods. If it's true that for any two bundles, A and B, like what this means is when we're saying this means, right, when we have this, okay, let's just take this out. I'm sorry. So what this means, this highlighted statement means that for any two bundles A and B made up of n goods, it must be the case that either A is at least as good as B or B is at least as good as A or both. So you should be able to compare them, right? And the comparison, you should be, so basically what this is another way of saying, you're able to compare any two bundles. Either it must be the case that A is at least as good as B or B is at least as good as A or both. What this would mean is that either A is strictly preferred to B, that would be when A is at least as good as B and B is not at least as good as A, or it would be that is B is strictly better than A, which would be that B is at least as good as A and A is not at least as good as B. Or it would be that you're indifferent between them, which would be that A is at least as good as B and B is at least as good as A. So what we're saying is that for any two bundles A and B, you're able to compare them. We're able to tell, okay, is A at least as good as B or B at least as good as A or both. If both hold, then we have indifference. If just this holds and this one doesn't hold, then you A is strictly preferred to B. If this holds but this does not hold, then B is strictly preferred to A. So this is what we mean by completeness. The crux is that tastes are said to be complete if you're able to compare any two bundles. And by comparison, we mean that you're able to tell that is one strictly better than the other or you're indifferent between them.